Yo, what is up guys? It is Bumfris, back with another episode of Entitled Parents. Today's episode is gonna be a banger, and I know you're gonna love this one. Continuing on with this experiment of the YouTube algorithm, can I please make sure every single person watching this video hits the like button down below? It helps me understand the YouTube algorithm more than you know, and helps me deliver better content to you guys every single day. Now sit back, relax, and get annoyed at some entitled parents. I, a 17-year-old male, have been wanting to get in better shape since last year. I've been going for runs, but since grade 12 started, I wanted to kick it up a notch. So when I'm not at school, at work, or with my band, I'm Ace Freshly in a Kiss tribute band. I've been hitting the gym and I've been hitting it pretty hard. My muscles have been really sore every day, but I still pull my weight around the house. My body being sore probably contributed to my reaction for this situation. Now onto the actual story. I went to bed last night at around 11:30, which is normal for me on a Friday night. I get woken up at 3:30 AM by my mum screaming my name. I was really confused at first because it's dark, I'm still half asleep, and my mum is calling my name. I awkwardly fell out of bed trying to get up quickly because I thought there was a fire or something and raced into the hallway as fast as I could. The screaming woke up my stepdad because he was standing at his door wondering what was going on. I get to my mum's room and she looks at me and rudely says, "Fudge, it took you long enough. Turn my fan to a lower setting now." I was so peed off. She screamed my name at 3:30 in the morning, which made me think there was an emergency, but all she needed was for me to turn her fan down because she was too lazy to get out of bed and do it herself. I was tired and my body hurt and I lost it. I yelled at her, "Is this the only reason you woke me up? To turn your fan down? It's 3:30 in the morning and you woke the whole house up? For this?" She was silent. I was so mad, but I realized that me being mad wasn't gonna do anything, so I just left to go and calm down. My mum has screamed at me for as long as I can remember, and I have never yelled back. I've come close to it recently, but this is the first time that I've physically yelled back, and I think it surprised her. I went to my room and sat on my bed, and I was so mad that I was shaking. My stepdad came in to lecture me, probably about yelling, but I'd had enough. I cut him off before he could start and said, "Are you kidding? You're seriously going to lecture me about this now?" He replied with, "If you don't want this, then you shouldn't have gotten so mad," and yelled. I shot back with, "I'm tired, I'm sore, and I got woken up at 3:30 for no reason. I think I have a reason to be peed off." He scoffed and shook his head, then left my room. I went back to sleep and woke up at 9 o'clock. And I am still really peed off about it. You know, it's one thing for the mother in the first place to be so entitled and so lazy that she thinks it's acceptable to wake her son up at 3:30 in the morning to get him to do something that she can't be bothered doing. But then for the stepdad to walk into the OP's room to try and defend the mother's honor? Like, I'm sorry, but you are so irrational if you think that that type of behavior can be defended and that the OP wasn't in the right by getting angry at the mum waking him up for no reason at 3 o'clock in the morning. Honestly, it sounds like these entitled parents are a match made in heaven. Oh, and just a side note, I would love to know what some of your favorite holiday destinations are, especially for those of you that are in the US, because it looks like we're going to be allowed to start traveling again soon, and I'd love to get out and explore some new places. So let me know in the comments your favorite holiday destination anywhere in the world and why, and I'll try and respond to as many of you as I can. I recently went through a breakup. It was amicable and we're still very good friends. I had to move out of the apartment that we shared though, and almost immediately I got a perfect apartment which has 2 bedrooms. I wanted to use the spare room as my gaming/study room, and I recently got a promotion and have the opportunity to live on my own. My mum heard that I was planning to move in on my own and she was not happy. She kept saying how it's dangerous to be alone and that it's too expensive. I told her that the building has CCTV, security, and other features. I also reminded her that I can afford this luxury and I need to be on my own. She said that I could save more money by sharing the apartment and that she knows a girl looking for a room. I didn't feel comfortable to share a room with a random stranger and told her so. She called me selfish for not helping another person. I genuinely thought that she was just looking out for me. But then she said, "How am I supposed to get a loan off you when you're spending so much money on rent? I need money for loads of things and I can't get a loan from the bank." I've decided to have limited contact with her. I'm going through a lot and it made me realize that she wasn't concerned about my well-being, just my money. It must be incredibly hurtful to know that your mother sees you as a source of money as opposed to someone who they genuinely care about. I mean, seriously, I make a lot of backhand, off-the-cuff comments on this channel, but a situation like this where you genuinely believe your mother's saying something to you because she cares about you, and then for her to do a 180-degree flip and be like, no, I don't actually care about you, it's just about the amount of money that you're making. It's one of the few situations where entitled parent stories I've read have done something that could be genuinely emotionally damaging. I think the OP's made a good call and gone limited contact with her mum, because if nothing else, it sounds like she might be better off without her. So, full disclosure, I'm getting tested for endometriosis, and my mum knows this, and she knows when all of my appointments are, and she also knows where they are. My pelvic ultrasound is scheduled for tomorrow at 1 PM. She knows that very well and has for a while. I wasn't home when the tech called to confirm my appointment, so they left a discreet message as to not breach my medical confidentiality. My mother flipped out and began accusing me of getting some other medical procedure instead. I should also note that I am 20, and so even if I was, which I'm not, it still wouldn't be her business. She begins trying to trace the call, Googling the number and trying to prove that I am somehow lying about my ultrasound appointment. When she finally traced it back to, you guessed it, the exact appointment that she already knew about, she got quiet. I, however, did not. I started screaming and telling her that she had no business to do that and that I'll be changing every single record that I had to my cell phone. Most of my medical records come through our house phone as it's from the family doctor, and it's less of a hassle if the doctor only has one number for the household. This is so frustrating. No matter what the appointment was for, I'm 20 and deserve privacy. I honestly don't think she'll ever stop acting like this. You know, there's very little commentary that I can add to a story like this. It's just so clear-cut and so self-explanatory that this entitled mum crossed a massive line just because she felt as if she was entitled to information which she was absolutely not entitled to. It's one thing to have a degree of care and be a little bit curious about what's going on, and you know what, most of the time there's pretty transparent conversation between parents and kids. But don't breach that trust that you've built with your kid and then start accusing them of doing something that they haven't done. Not only is that being an entitled parent, that's just being a bad parent in general. I just overheard my mother on the phone telling one of her friends how lazy and how weak the older kids are these days because in her time, the eldest child took care of the younger siblings while the parents worked to provide for all the children. I'm that child, except I'm not a child anymore and I'm 24 years old. My siblings are 8 and 7. I work full-time and study part-time. I want to be a nurse and I've not moved out because I help my single mother with her children. After all, they are my half-siblings and the dad walked out on her before the second one was even born and he does not pay any support. I help pay for their schooling and their sports. I pay bills in the house and clean after myself and help spring clean the house every weekend between studies. I do not help with her discipline of the kids because they are not my responsibility. I did not have kids at almost 40 with a married man. They are fully her responsibility. I am far from lazy or weak. I work 40 hours a week, study 20 hours a week, give or take a few hours, and I still attend my dance studio once a week with a full-time fitness routine, and I volunteer at the local hospital every second weekend. So what if I do not help anything but financially with my two half-siblings? I still care for them and pay for everything that they want and need when she cannot. I take care of them on weekends and take them out when she needs a break. She has never once offered to take them out if I'm in class and needed the house to be quiet. Not once has she ever given me a break. I've always needed to be the perfect daughter and just suck it all up. They are not my children, they are her children. I am so upset with her now. Calling me lazy and weak just because I did not step up as their mum when she birthed them. I have my own life and my own goals. I don't need to live at home. I can move anytime I want. I only stay to help her cope with everything. Does she really think that I don't want to leave? How many times I have wished that I could meet my friends for a getaway weekend, but I passed because she will not make it if I'm not home for 3 days. She can't even cope without me for 1 day. She begged me to move back the first time I moved out of the house, pleaded with me to stay at home and help her, and this is how she thanks me, by calling me lazy and weak to her friends. I am so peed off at her right now. If you only have more than one kid so that you can have a spare parent for them when you don't feel like it, don't have children at all. It is your kid, your responsibility, not the oldest sibling's responsibility. You know, if I was the OP in this situation, I would be moving out of my mum's house as soon as I possibly could. I get that she feels a sense of responsibility for her siblings, and at the end of the day, that's her family. But like she said during the story, the mum was the one who brought them into the world, and it is solely her responsibility to look after them. Don't get me wrong, I feel like it's always good to help out your family, but there's a line that you do not cross. You can't just expect that somebody else is going to take over parental responsibility of your kids because you're too lazy to do so. It's great to ask someone to help out and babysit them here and there, but you definitely do not do what the OP's mum has done in this story. Honestly, just let the mother fend for herself a bit and then see if her attitude changes. So, for context, I'm from Switzerland, so the gaming industry is not really the best. I went to Gamestop to go get myself 2K22, and I wanted it as a disc because I have an Xbox at my dad and my mum's house, and I can play it on any of those consoles if I have it in the disc. Gamestop in Switzerland only has about 5 of every new game for Xbox, since the PS4 is the most popular and they don't really care about Xbox very much. So I saw 2K22 and it was the very last one, so I grabbed it and went to the counter with my mum's credit card that she gave me to go get the game as a birthday present. That's when the entitled mum comes in with her 11 or 12-year-old kid. The kid looks at the shelf and doesn't see 2K for Xbox and sees it in my hand. He then comes up to me with the entitled mum after seeing me waiting for the cashier to arrive, and the mum asks me if I can give her the game because she would give me an extra $25. I kindly declined and told her that she could buy an Xbox gift card and buy it online. Then the cashier scanned it and I pulled out the card. Then the entitled mum, who is still standing behind me touching her back pocket, starts screaming, saying that I had stolen her credit card. A security guard came in and started asking me questions and called my mother. My mother had to come all the way to the store to say and prove that it was her credit card, and the entitled mum got arrested. Karma is a bish. I'm no expert on Swiss law, but getting arrested seems pretty far-fetched for this story, and look, I'm not saying it's not true, but it just seems like the kind of thing that you might add to the end of the story to add a little bit of spice to it. Take that aside anyway, it's like a perfect classic example of an entitled parent. They see something they want, they think they're entitled to it, and they'll stop at no means to get it. If that means screaming at a literal child and making up claims that they stole your card when they didn't, I guess for an entitled parent, that's just your average day. For years, I did not have a key to my own house, yet my stepbrother always had one. He lost his first one, but then got another, but when I asked my dad and my entitled stepmom if I could have a key, they would say no. Fast forward to when I'm 18 or 19 and I'm going in and out of the house often, and I want to stop relying on them to be there when I need to come over. I was talking to my mum about how they wouldn't give me a key, and she said that he probably didn't want me to let his mum and sister in. This is because he doesn't talk to them anymore, or he didn't want to have my mum come inside. I thought this idea was crazy and I brushed it off. Eventually though, when I asked if I could get a key, my dad and the entitled stepmom would say sure, we'll have to get you your own though. I would ask repeatedly and they would say that they would get it made, but not right now. Just a side note, they did the same thing with my glasses my freshman year of high school. I couldn't see anything on the board at school because my eyes were so bad, and I kept asking them to get me glasses and they kept saying, we'll get them soon, but they never got them. I go to my mum's and I ask her, and a week later, I've got a pair. One day my entitled stepmom gives me a spare key for me to borrow, so it still wasn't my own key. I decided to do a little test and see if they would get me my own key. A week or so later, I said that I lost the key, whereas I just put it in a pocket in my book bag. When I told my dad that I couldn't find it, my dad came up to me and handed me a key to the house, and he said, while sounding very annoyed mind you, I've had this for a few weeks, but I've been forgetting to give it to you. Like, what? He legit said that he didn't have a key for me less than a week ago. And what happened next astonished me. After he gave me the key, he said, don't be letting my mum, my sister, or your mum into the house. And I couldn't believe it. My mum was right this whole time. He really thought that I was going to let these women, who didn't even want to come into my house, walk inside. I was effing baffled, to say the least. I just walked away with my key and put it on my keychain, which included the key to my mum's house that I've had since I was 12. Some of the stories today are just seriously astounding. Like, you've got a full adult that's living in your house, which might I add is your daughter, that you don't want to give a key to because you don't trust her not to bring somebody else into the house. Like, that's a very basic conversation that could have taken place with the OP in their early teens. And then they wouldn't have need to have endured this ridiculous inconvenience of not having a key to their own house. I don't know what the living arrangements are, but it sounds like the OP's either better living with their mum or just going and moving out themselves. And that is that for today's episode of Entitled Parents. If you did enjoy, don't forget to hit the like button down below. And if you're new, don't forget to subscribe. If you've got the time, it would mean the world to me if you would watch one of the videos that are on your screen right now. They've been hand selected for you and I can guarantee will give you some entertainment and a laugh. Otherwise though, thank you again for watching. I hope you're all having a fantastic day and I'll see you guys tomorrow for another video. Bye.